What is bubonic plague?
Bubonic plague is one of three types of Yersinia pestis: bubonic, septicemic, and pneumonic. People often use the terms plague, Black Death, and bubonic plague interchangeably, so for the sake of clarity in this video, here are a few simple definitions. The plague: a disease caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which again can take three forms. It is transmitted from animals like rodents and fleas to humans and other animals through skin contact. It can also be spread human to human through coughing or sneezing, as well as direct skin contact. Bubonic plague: the most common form of plague, and often specifically involves lymph nodes in the groin and armpits. The first recorded cases occurred in the 6th century CE, during what became known as the Justinian plague. The Black Death: the most famous and devastating plague pandemic, which took place during the 14th century. The Black Death had a major impact on world history, so we'll focus mainly on that. We tend to associate the plague with Europe.
That's really offensive.
But actually, it originated in the Gobi Desert.
The disease was carried west along trade routes. It reached Constantinople by 1346 and destroyed about half of the imperial city population within 2 or 3 years. This contributed to the decline and fall of the Byzantine Empire over the next century. From Constantinople, the plague spread south to Alexandria and Cairo, where by 1348, roughly 7,500 people were dying every day.
7,500?!
7,500. Survivors, both animal and human, carried the plague by land and sea to mainland Europe, where life was generally miserable for the next 60 years or so. The most common remedy prescribed by medieval doctors was for the patient to rest and put as much distance as possible between themselves and the offensive odours, believed to cause the disease. However, people trying to distance themselves from the plague usually ended up carrying it with them and spreading it even further.
Oh, hey. I'm clean.
It's hard to tell exactly how many people have died from the plague over the past 600 or 700 years, but the best estimates are somewhere around 200 million.
200 million?!
200 million. That's a lot! The Black Death claimed about 25 million people within the span of less than 2 decades.
Got 200 million.
Drastic decline in population resulted in parallel decline in agriculture and food production, so survivors of infected towns often starved to death or traveled to neighboring towns, bringing the plague with them.
Let's say that this pizza represents the world's population during the 14th century CE. And this is the population post-plague.
That's really offensive.
Well, of course, it wasn't just called the Black Death because it was so widespread. The disease itself was also pretty terrible. Worried you might have the plague? Check for these symptoms: gangrene, chills, high fever, muscle cramps, seizures, painful lymph gland swelling, heavy breathing, continuous vomiting of blood, organ failure, nausea, aching limbs, coughing, and extreme pain caused by the decay or decomposition of the skin while the person is still alive.
Ew!
Additional symptoms include extreme fatigue, gastrointestinal problems, delirium, and coma. After you've noticed these symptoms, you have about 4 days to live, tops.
Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day.